Okay, thank you everyone for being here. Um, this session is more about, I'm going to cover a couple of things. One is, of course, there has been some challenges we have been facing. The challenges, of course, at every front, but as a business owner, you always get to see, know from your clients when you pitch them migration from Drupal 7. This has been a very common story. And when I spoke to a lot of people, a lot of business owners in Barcelona, this was one of the things I found that convincing your client to migrate from 7 to 10, 11 is a hardball game. And many of the times, rather than migrating to next version of Drupal, they are migrating away from Drupal. Okay, so that's also has been happening. So I'm going to talk about how we sort of came to this approach, which helped us save some clients. And we started for one of the project where I personally landed being CEO of that product, part-time CEO, I would say, to take this forward. One. Second is I'm going to also talk about some of the product hacks, or I would say product thinking approach, which as a developer and as a product owner you can use in your development process. And lastly, some of the stories I had to come across and how I used it in my favor. Okay, so it's more or less mix of all perspective. This was supposed to be the slide. So I just copied few slides from the template, and then rest is my old slide. I presented somewhere else. So, okay, so I start from here. Okay, that was the brief. This is more about migrating from Drupal 7, less about migrating from Drupal 7 to 10. So we do have Drupal 10, but we also have other stuff like microservices where you migrate to in order to solve the real challenges which is hard to solve with Drupal. So I'll cover a little bit of that part as well. Well, this is about me. I co-founded OpenSense Labs in 2016. That's a Drupal service agency. We started as Drupal service provider, but we have, of course, diversified into multiple segments now. Recently we started, of course, with demands, we started with AI as a service as well. This is my LinkedIn QR code. Please feel free to connect. I love to connect people and expand my network. And this is my Drupal handler, pritam-osl, and that's my email address. Well, a few lines about this organization, which I run currently as I said, 360 service agency. So we do have 70 plus strong strength right now, and we have been consistently ranking well in terms of Drupal service provider on Drupal.org. That means we do invest a lot in Drupal.org contributions as well. Well, and this is the product on which I use this strategy. The product is Edredo. It's a learning experience platform, more than learning management system actually. And currently it has more than 100,000 users and more than 4,000 classrooms. So when I say classroom you can relate to a group. Basically it uses group module in the backend. So it's a group, different classrooms. It helps educators kickstart your online school. So just with certain clicks, you start your school immediately. This is one of the feedback we received from one of our end users. Okay, after we smoothly shifted to this new technology and away from Drupal 7. Well, let's come to the problem statement. So how many, just to understand, how many of you are from technical background? Like, so cool, then of course we can little bit dive into deeper. So Drupal 7 migration is painful, right? Everybody would agree, especially if the application is more than just website, right? I mean, if it is having more than just few content types, then it will become very painful. The reason is that it's more than rebuild, right? So, I mean, you have to build a new application, then you have to go through this extract, transform and load ETL process for the data migration, right? And then followed by rigorous testing to make sure that everything is going well, right? The problem is that it has, especially for large applications, these are the major problems which, or the expectations which users are having currently. The problem is, one is that the end user experience, let's say again, I would like to differentiate multiple times between websites and complex web applications. We are more focused here about more than websites, where users are actually interacting. Users are, let's say, if for instance in this context, users are actually talking to the system, right? It's more like a platform where they are learning, they are doing a lot of activities, submitting assignments and all. So end user experience is something which is really, really important, right? And then the business owners, they don't want to go into the loop of infinite wait, right? I mean, it shouldn't be like I do the development for 2 years, till then I complete, there is something new in front of me, right? And when we talk about, of course, applications, everybody wants cost-effective solutions. It should be scalable. It shouldn't be, like working for few users. The moment user and content has increased, it, performance is dragged down. So these are the things which are normal expectations, right? Now imagine the situation, right? What you can do if some of you have already dealt with the situation. If there is one option that you currently, you halt the Drupal 7 development, right, or support or anything. I mean, you just keep it in support mode. So let's say if website stopped working or application stopped working, then only you entertain it. Otherwise, you just stop and focus on the rebuild, right? Other option is that you have two parallel teams. So Drupal 7 is also working, and you have the team to support, and you focus on the rebuild. The problem with second option is that if meanwhile you are rebuilding, Drupal 7 site is still growing, you are doing the development. So that can create another challenge, that once it is finished, you again, build all those features which are lately done. So we came to this approach of progressive migration. What you do here is that, imagine this is your application, right, running on Drupal. These three are like, examples of features which you have. Then what you do is you spin up another environment with the new version of Drupal, right? Then you start working on a feature, right? I'll come to later on, we'll talk about feature selection and all, but you start working on a feature, and then once this feature is ready, you just switch it off there on the old application and start serving your users from the new application. So that's how the ideal situation would be, that at some point in time, all the features will be moved here, right? And then you completely shut down the older version while your users are completely unaware what happened, right? Till this point, any question? Okay. So, yeah, please.
When you're doing this migration, progressive migration, like you open one feature to a new site, how you will make consistency between those?
Yes, good one. Yeah. Okay. That's why we differentiate backend from routing layer. Okay. I'll come to it. Okay. So I was hoping this question, by the way. Thank you. So this is the ideal situation you end up with, that you have slowly migrated everything without user noticing that there was a migration taking place. Okay. I'll address your question in the next slide. It is actually important one. So what is the roadmap for this kind of migration? Okay. The first one is that you have to prioritize your feature, not just the priority has to take care of the consideration that it's not just that you have to prioritize what is important for end user, rather you also have to see what is technically feasible, right? So this is one. Second is that you have to ensure data consistency, right? Because you are now maintaining 2 databases technically till the point you complete. So you make sure that you are not creating inconsistency. And while maintaining the consistency, you have to make sure, you have to choose this intentionally, that you ignore the duplicity of the data. I mean, it's okay if, let's say, a content type or entity is being stored at both the places. Okay, it happens. You will have to choose that. And this is the one we will talk about, reverse proxy layer or routing layer, which makes the decision that from which point or which source the user will be served the request. And then feature specific A/B testing. So when your application, one feature is ready at one application, you make sure that you test it well before you turn off the feature from the old side. Well, these were all the part of theory. Let's come to the actual example. So this is what we did in this application. Earlier application was on Drupal 7. First we decoupled it. Okay, so decoupling makes it easier that at Next.js layer itself you can have routing, right? So which data source you want to hit, whether yours is Drupal 7 or Drupal 8, you can always decide, right? So that was easy, but it can be done in normal monolith Drupal as well. So you have to, either you can have reverse proxy, or you can, let's say, even at your network layer, maybe at AWS network layer, you can just specify that these URLs should hit this Drupal or others should go to new version of Drupal. Okay, so that can be done. In this case, here was the routing layer in Next.js layer, and it makes it very easy for us to just route the users the way we wanted. We moved, first of all, this was the very important step, we moved authentication to Firebase. Okay, so now none of your Drupal is providing authentication, it's provided by Firebase, and then within these two Drupals you have session prolongation. So if you maintain session, so if you log out at one place, it logs out at other place as well, to ensure that you have you have maintained the security. So this was the very high level architecture we started with, and then rest was like the way we did, we just developed a feature here, and then the moment it was ready, we just started serving the API from here. And because users were already migrated to Firebase, so they never noticed that it has happened. Any questions so far? Well, now I'll move a little bit further, and we talk about, was it pure Drupal to Drupal migration? No, it wasn't. Okay, some of the challenges I would like to discuss, which might help you while deciding such frameworks. So Drupal is not perfect for everything, right? I mean, other way around, Drupal is a great CMS, but I don't want to do everything with Drupal. Okay, there was a time I used to pitch Drupal for everything to our clients, but we have understood that it's not the right thing to do. Eventually it is going to create problems. So we started deciding, or working on finding out what is the right thing to do, rather than choosing Drupal for everything, as I said. And again, for very small tasks, sometimes Drupal becomes very resource intensive. So I'll give you one example, for instance. So example is notification. As simple as it appears, as we are very used to using this application in our mobile phones or everywhere, this really is a great problem to solve. Few years, YouTube had to revise their notification engine, because what happens is, or especially even in Twitter, for instance. So what happens is, like, when, let's say, one post is created, okay, it triggers, it fans out the notification, right? And imagine, like, for instance, on YouTube, one channel has like millions of subscribers, right? So sending this notification is really challenging. One of the basic requirement was that users should get notification in this application. So we try to solve it first with Drupal, where, let's say, the simple database was that there was a notification table where across every user you know insert notification, and when user logs in, then you load and show the notification. But the moment it grows, you know, it becomes a huge challenge. So because a lot of insert is happening, and you know how insert, I mean how intensive insert application can be, or insert transaction can be at database layer. So what we did, we removed notification out from the Drupal. Okay. Now what happens is we have a small microservice running on Python which does this job out of Drupal. Okay. We don't involve Drupal into it. Similarly, these are the problems, like feed stream is very related to notification, like feeds are when you load, or any social application has feed stream. So these were some of the challenges when we built with Drupal, but it was supposed to be solved, and we moved to microservice architecture, and this is how we did it. So how many of you have experience building something like quiz or some application which starts, you know, at let's say 1,000 users starts using that at a single time. So you must have seen that what happens during that time, right? So let me specifically talk about little bit about quiz, and then maybe I can just move ahead. So quiz has this challenge that every teacher, what they will do is they will set like quiz should start at 10 a.m. right? For example, now students are waiting for 10 a.m. and everyone is like jumping to the quiz at 10, right? So you can imagine how the resource utilization could go like spike. So one of the thing you can do, a very simple solution, you just warm up your server, like you know that okay, 1,000 users are going to come, so you know how much CPU you need, how much database scaling you need, so you just scale it. But it's not, I mean you can do it sometimes, but it's not feasible that you always calculate and you be ready, right? So what we did, we keep again quiz creation and everything in Drupal, but with JavaScript, simple JavaScript application on AWS serverless, that is Lambda, we deployed the quiz taking part on Lambda. Okay, so when quiz is published, we push everything to Lambda, right? And then when users are taking quiz, every other thing is being supported with AWS Lambda. They can scale, the way users are coming up. And then there is a queue where all the quiz submission goes. So after submission, all the quizzes will just, one by one smoothly and swiftly go to Drupal, right? So, and similarly, other challenges were solved with microservice, because any one of them you cannot scale on Drupal. One of the thing I wanted to mention, which I landed up using, is Quill editor. How many of you have experience with Quill? Quill, no. So for instance, this rich editing you are saying, like CK editor. So there is something called Quill, and we figured that even LinkedIn uses Quill editor. And what Quill does, that it stores everything in a format which is called delta, like that the HTML, it's not HTML which is stored, it's a JSON which is stored at the end, it's called delta format. And why we chose this? Because we also had to create a mobile application for it, and if you want to have the same rich editing experience on mobile, it was very hard to do with CK editor or something like that. So Quill is really flexible, and I just wanted to mention that as a bonus, that you could try if you have anything in content editing or creation. It's really flexible. You can even add your custom plugins. For example, you see FX is a LaTeX equation writing tool. So yeah.
Is it in the Drupal?
I think you have Drupal module as well, but just search for, it's an open source editor. Yeah, you have a GitHub for this. This is the case study I published once everything was done. We did migrate to Drupal 9, that's why it is Drupal 9. Now it's, of course, updated, but while we did, it was Drupal 9. Now, a simple, I would conclude with this growth story. As I said, like taking care of a lot of things on this application. I also learned how to, do some sort of little bit of growth hack. So let me show you a simple video maybe. So if you look at this awesome screenshot video, what's happening is here a script is running, which is, you see the page is changing, right? If you notice, yeah, you see it's changing. So a script is running in the browser, which is navigating to different pages, and what it is doing is it is clicking on that connect button. Okay. So when we were working, yeah, this is how it is loading. When we were, I just wanted to show you the video because I recorded back then, and then I come back. Okay. Yeah. So when we were building this Edredo application, migrating and making sure the application is smooth, there was an application. Fortunately, or coincidentally, the name also appears same, right? Edredo. Okay, you might also think that the name was inspired from this, but it wasn't. Okay, and we figured that on September 2022, this was shutting down the application. Okay, and why they did has a different story, because they moved to something bigger. They moved to B2G, so they have a big government contract. Entire Egypt, for example, is running on this Edmodo system. Okay, so they shut down their public-facing application. We wanted to utilize this instance, and what we did, by running that script, we sent invitations to every possible users. Okay, and what we did, we found a small glitch in their email parser, and when we wrote the user who was sending the invitation, the name was edredo.com. So you see edredo.com is coming as link, right? So this is how we triggered thousands of requests, and suddenly we ended up getting 10,000 users who started actively using the application, because the other platform was anyway, shutting down. They got the alternate and they started using Edredo. So with that, I just conclude my presentation. If you guys have any question. Thank you.
So the video you saw, that was for other platform?
Yeah, yes. So as I said, like edmodo.com was a platform, similar application. It was pure LMS kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, and they were shutting down. So yeah, we just wanted to grab those users and bring them to our platform.